Good evening, one and all. We welcome you all to the international seminar on maritime, seafarer, economy, tourism, safety, universal access to information, environment, health, well-being, and sustainable development 2023, commemorating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, nation celebrating 76 years of independence, India's G20 presidency, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 2015 to 2030, as part of awareness and campaigns in collaboration with Sri Holistic Health Foundation India and Sri Research Institute Center for Art, Sciences and Well. Today, we are commemorating World Maritime Day and also International Day for the Universal Access to Information and also World Rabies Day. So before we start our sessions, let's take the blessings of Almighty.
Kurutvam kalyanam arogyam dhanasampada shubham kurutvam kalyanam arogyam dhanasampada shatru buddhi vinashaya deepajyotirnamostute deepajyotirnamostute shubham kurutvam kalyanam arogyam dhanasampada Shubham kurutvam kalyanam arogyam dhanasampadah.
With the blessings of Almighty, we shall continue with today's sessions. The registration link has been shared in the chat box. Those who have already registered may not register again. Those who have not registered can register now with the link shared in the chat box. And the international seminar is also being streamed live on YouTube. The link has been shared in the chat box. You can watch later when required. And feedback will be taken after each session. We request everyone to be active and fill up the feedback form, which will be taken in the form of polls in the Zoom platform. There will be no external link shared in the chat box or anywhere else for feedback. So after each session or after the end of all the sessions, the feedback will be taken within the Zoom platform through polls. So we request everyone to register and keep attending all the sessions and also fill the feedback form after each session or after all the session, whichever is applicable. So today we are commemorating 3 world events. Today, we are commemorating World Maritime Day. The 2023 theme for World Maritime Day is MARPOL at 50. Our commitment goes on. Just a second, we'll reach you in a minute. Yeah. Today is commemorated as World Maritime Day. This year's theme is MARPOL at 50. Our commitment goes on, reflects the International Maritime Organization's long history of protecting the environment from the impact of shipping via a robust regulatory framework and emphasizes its ongoing commitment to the important work. The theme spotlights the international conversation and also the International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution of from Ships, in short known as MARPOL, MARPOL, which covers prevention of pollution of the marine environment by ships from operational or accidental causes. In addition, the theme aims to promote the further dialogue and on the next phase of IMO's work to further enhance the sustainable use of protection of our planet and oceans in line with UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and 17 Sustainable Development Goals. These include affordable and clean energy. Goal number 7, industry, innovation and infrastructure. Goal 9, climate action and sustainable use of oceans, seas and marine resources. Goals 13 and 14, and the importance of partnerships and implementation to achieve these goals. Goal 17. This year, World's Maritime Day will be celebrated on 28 September 2023. International shipping transports is more than 80% of the global trade to peoples and communities all over the world. Shipping is the most efficient and cost-effective method of international transportation for goods. It provides a dependable, low-cost means of transporting goods globally, facilitating commerce and helping to create prosperity among nations and peoples. This world relies on a safe, secure, and efficient international shipping industry, which is an essential component of any program for future sustainable green economic growth in sustainable manner. The promotion of sustainable shipping and sustainable maritime development is one of the major priorities of IMO in the coming years. Therefore, energy efficiency, new technology and innovations, maritime education and training, maritime security, maritime traffic management, and the development of the maritime infrastructure, the development and implementation of global standards covering these and other issues will underpin IMO's commitment to provide the institutional framework necessary for a green and sustainable global maritime transportation system. IMO is a specialized agency of the United Nations, is a global standard setting authority for the safety, security, and environmental performance of international shipping. Its main role is to create a regulatory framework for the shipping industry, and that is fair and effective, universally adapted, and universally implemented. Therefore, its role is to create a level playing field so that ship operators cannot address their financial issues by simply cutting corners and compromising on safety, security, and environmental performance. United Nations Law of Sea Convention. The United Nations is working to ensure peaceful, cooperative, legally defined uses of seas and oceans. For the individual, and common benefit of the humankind. The UN's groundbreaking work adopting the 1982 Law of the Sea Convention stands as a defining moment in the expansion of international law to the vast shared resources of our planet. The convention has resolved several important issues related to ocean usage and sovereignty. World Maritime Day 2023 highlights marine environment protection, IMO's commitment to the preservation of the marine environment underlined on World Maritime Day 2023. IMO, the International Maritime Organization, is the United Nations specialized agency with responsibility for the safety and security of shipping and the prevention of marine and atmospheric pollution by ships. IMO's work supports the UN Sustainable Development Goals. IMO has 175 member states, 50 conventions and protocols. IMO's commitment to the preservation of the marine environment underlined on World Maritime Day 2023. This year sees the 50th anniversary of the adoption of the International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships, in short known as MARPOL. the primary global treaty for the prevention of pollution of the marine environment by ships from intentional, operational, or accidental causes. To mark IMO's decision to the objectives of this landmark treaty, the theme of the World Maritime Day 2023 is MARPOL at 50. Our commitment goes on. IMO is calling all member states and all in the maritime industry to celebrate the day and to be inspired upon the positive impacts MARPOL has brought. IMO's work towards a sustainable future with enhanced protection of our planet and ocean countries. On World Maritime Day, the IMO UNEP Norway Innovation Forum 2023 took place on 28 September at IMO headquarters, London, and online. This forum promotes the innovation to accelerate the transition of the marine sector towards a zero and low emission future. Topics addressed with high-level panel discussions include environmental performance, reducing plastic litter from ships, and supporting innovation The forum promotes innovation to accelerate the transition of the marine sector towards a zero and low emission future. Topics addressed through this high-level panel discussion include environmental performance, reducing plastic litter from ships, supporting innovation in marine fuel production, decarbonizing embracing the future of building on the past. In his message on the World Maritime theme for 2023, the IMO Secretary General Kitak Lim noted achievements already made in regulating to protect ocean health, but made it clear that significant work still faces the shipping industry. Shipping must embrace decarbonization, digitalization, and innovative technology, including automation, while ensuring the human element is kept front and the center of the technologies and green revolutions. Shipping must embrace decarbonization, digitalization, and innovation technology, including automation, while ensuring the human element is kept front and center of this technological and green transition is to ensure a sustainable planet for future generations. MARPOL, which has made a significant difference to shipping and to health International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships, in short known as MRPOL. The International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships, MARPOL, is the main international convention covering prevention of pollution of the marine environment by ships in operational or accidental causes. The MARPOL Convention was adopted on 2nd November 1973 at IMO. The Protocol of 1978 was adopted in replace to a separate tanker accidents in 1976-77 as 1973. MARPOL Convention had not yet entered into the force. The 1798 MARPOL Protocol observed the parent convention and combined instrument to set into force on 2nd October 1983. In 1997, a protocol was adopted to amend the convention and a new Annex 7. New Annex 6 was added when he entered into the force on 19th May. MARPOL have been updated by amendments through the years. The convention include religious regulations aimed at preventing and minimizing pollution from ships, both accidents and the convention include regulations aimed at preventing and minimizing pollution from ships, both accidental pollution and from routine operations, and currently include 6 technical annexes, special areas with strict controls on operations. Discharges are included in most annexes. Annex 1, regulations for the prevention of pollution by oil, entered into force 2nd October 1983. Covers prevention of pollution by oil from operational measures as well as from accidental discharges. The 1992 amendments to Annex 1 made it mandatory for new oil tankers to have double hulls and Annex 2, regulations for the control of pollution by noxious liquid substances in bulk, entered into force 2nd October 1983, details the discharge criteria and the measures for control of pollution by noxious liquid substances carried in bulk. Some 250 substances were evaluated and included in the list appended to the convention. The discharge of the residues is allowed only to the recipient facilities until Annex 3, prevention of pollution by harmful substances carried by the sea in packaged form, entered into force 1st July 1992, contains general requirements for the issuing of detailed standards on packaging, material, labeling, documentation, Annex 4, prevention of pollution by sewage from ships, entered into force 27 September 2003, contains requirements to control pollution of the sea by sewage. The discharge of sewage into sea is prohibited except when the ship has in operation an approved sewage treatment plant, or when the ship is discharging, communicated and disinfected several sewage using an approved system at a distance of not more than 3 nautical miles from the nearest land. Sewage, which is not Annex 5, prevention of pollution by garbage from ships entered into force 31st December 1988, deals with different types of garbage and specifies the distances from the land and the manner in which they may be disposed of. The most important feature of the annex is the complete ban imposed on the disposal into the sea of all forms of plastics. Annex 6, prevention of air pollution from ships entered into force 19 May 2005, set limits on sulfur oxide and nitrogen oxide emissions from ship exhaust and prohibits deliberate emissions of ozone depleting substances. Design emission control areas set. A chapter adopted in 2011 covers the mandatory technical and operational energy efficiency measures aimed at reducing greenhouse gas emissions from the ships. Life itself arose from the oceans. The ocean is vast and covers 140 million square miles, some 72% of the Earth's surface. The ocean has always been an important source of food for the life it helped generate, and from earliest recorded history, it has also served trade and commerce, adventure, discovery. It has separated and brought people together. Even now, when the continents have been mapped and their territories made accessible by road, river, and air, most of the world's people live no more than 200 miles from the sea and relate to close by. The ocean had long been subject to the freedom of the seas doctrine, a principle put forth in the 17th century, essentially limiting national rights and jurisdiction over the ocean to narrow ocean belts surrounding nation The oceans had long been subject to the freedom of the seas, a doctrine, a principle put forth in the 17th century, essentially limiting national rights and jurisdiction over the oceans to narrow sea belt during a nation's coastline. The rest of the sea were declared free for all and belonged to none. While the situations lasted into the 20th century, by mid-century there was an impetus to extend national claims over the offshore resources. There was a growing concern over the toll taken on coastal fish stocks by long-distance fishing fleets and over the threat of pollution and waterways, transport vessels, and all other oil tankers carrying noxious cargoes that piled sea routes across the globe. The threat of pollution was always persistent for the coastal efforts, and United Nations Law of the Sea Convention, in short known as ULCOS, in clause, the international or the United Nations is working to ensure the peaceful, cooperative, legally defined use of seas and oceans for individual and community benefit of humankind. Urgent calls for an effective international regime over the seabed and the ocean floor beyond a clearly defined national jurisdiction, set in motion in a process that spanned 15 years and saw the creation of the United Nations Seabed Committees, the signing of treaty banning nuclear weapons on the seabed. The UN groundbreaking work in adopting the 1982 Law of Sea Convention stands on a defining moment in the education and extension of international law to the vast shared water resources of our planet. The convention has right to receive several important issues related to ocean usage and sovereignty. Established freedom of navigation rights, set territorial sea boundaries in 12 kilometers offshore, set exclusive economic zones up to 200 miles offshore, set rules for extending continental shelf rights up to 350 miles offshore, created the International Seabed Authority, created the other conflicts resolution mechanisms, commission of the limits of the continental shelf, and many more.
Today, shipping delivers over 80% of the world trade and carries millions of passengers to destinations across the globe. Maritime transport continues to be the safest and most energy-efficient mode of transport. Shipping is a crucial part of the global supply chain. This is a certainty even in uncertain times. The International Maritime Organization, IMO, is fulfilling its role as the global regulator for shipping, ensuring that the maritime sector delivers cargo safely and environmentally sustainable manner. The voyage toward an environmentally sound shipping sector started over 50 years ago. At the time, the world recognized the need to protect our planet, and in particular, the maritime environment from all sources of pollution. A number of maritime pollution incidents were a strong catalyst for action. Against this background, IMO decided to adopt a treaty to prevent pollution from ships into the marine environment. The International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships, or MARPOL. Over the time, the IMO member states expanded MARPOL's coverage, starting from accidental and operational oil spill from tankers to prevention of pollution from chemicals carried in bulk, packaged dangerous goods, sewage, and garbage, and ultimately the prevention of air pollution from ships. This year, we celebrate the 50th anniversary of this landmark environmental treaty. To mark this special occasion, our World Maritime theme for 2023 is MARPOL at the 50. Our commitment goes on. Through these decades, MARPOL has consequently advanced to keep up with the lessons learned and new demands, such as the imperative to tackle climate change and to accommodate new technologies. Its rules are continuously upgraded as we look to a sustainable future and enhance the protection of our planet and oceans. MARPOL has had a positive impact on the marine environment. It has changed how ships like this one are designed and operated. The number of oil spills fell by over 90% through the last 50 years due to this and other targeted interventions. Thanks to MARPOL, the discharge of plastic garbage into the sea is banned, and operational waste such as garbage and sewage cannot simply be disposed of at the sea and are very strictly regulated. Air pollution rules have also immensely cut sulfur oxide emissions from ships. The latest efforts focus on driving the decarbonization of shipping, supporting the global fight against climate change. Of course, there is still more work to do. As we mark 50 years of MARPOL, I invite all stakeholders to promote further dialogue on the next phase of IMO's work to enhance sustainable shipping and protect our planet and oceans. Shipping is evolving. Shipping must embrace decarbonization, digitalization, and innovative technology, including automation, while ensuring the human element is kept front and the center of the technological and the green transition to ensure a sustainable planet for future generations. MARPOL has made a difference to shipping and to the health of our ocean, and will continue to do so as we look ahead to the next 50 years.
The International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships, MARPOL, is the main international convention covering prevention of pollution of the marine environment by ships from operational or accidental causes. The MARPOL conferences. The MARPOL Convention was adopted on 2nd November 1973. The Protocol of 1978 was adopted in response to a spate of tanker accidents in 1976-77. As the 1973 MARPOL Convention had not yet entered into force, the 1978 MARPOL Protocol observed the parent convention. Key conferences related to the prevention of pollution from ships include International Conference on Maritime Pollution, 8th October to 2nd November 1973, TSSP, CONF, International Conference on Tanker Safety and Pollution Prevention, 1978, 6 to 17 February 1978, adopted the Protocol of 1978 relating to the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, 1974, and the Protocol of 1978 relating to the International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships, 1973. Conference of Parties to the International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships, 1973, as modified by the Protocol of 1978 relating thereto 1 and 3rd November 1994. And Conference of Parties to the International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships, 1973, as modified by the Protocol of 1978 relating thereto 15 to 17 and 24, 22nd, 24 to 26 September 1997. On the occasion of World Maritime Day 2023, the IMO UNEP Norway Innovation Forum is taking place as part of World Maritime Day celebrations. Topics included environmental performance, reducing plastic litter from ships, supporting innovation in marine fuel protection, decarbonization, the maritime sector, unlocking green finance and partnerships, and collaboration.
The world's oceans provide us with 50% of our oxygen and abundant natural life, pleasure, food, exploration, and a means of travel and commerce. Until the middle of the 20th century, it was believed that the oceans were so vast they had an unlimited ability to dilute and render any pollution harmless. So rivers and oceans became a dumping ground for anything from sewage to chemical plant runoff. Simultaneously, there was a growing understanding of the human impact and damaging effects that bad practices in shipping were having on the marine environment. In 1948, the United Nations established the International Maritime Organization to ensure safe, secure, and efficient shipping on clean oceans. From 1954, they became custodians of OILPOL 54, tackling oil pollution from routine operations such as cargo tank cleaning. However, an increase in tanker size and number of voyages saw many tragic accidents in the 1950s and 1960s. As a result, crude oil and pollutants were released into the oceans in unprecedented amounts. In March 1967, navigational problems led to the supertanker Torrey Canyon running aground on the Seven Stones Reef off the Isles of Scilly. Salvage attempts failed and the ship broke in two, spilling her entire cargo of 119,000 tons of crude oil. The Royal Navy attempted to mitigate the damage by bombing the ship and igniting the oil with napalm. They failed, and the slick spread over 270 square miles, killing millions of sea organisms and some 200,000 birds, polluting the delicate coastline. The scale of this disaster galvanized the international community to demand change, leading to the International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships, MARPOL, adopted in November 1973 at the IMO. These regulations covered the prevention of pollution in the marine environment caused by ships through operational or accidental causes. There are currently 6 annexes to MARPOL in force. Annex 1 provides regulation for prevention of pollution by oil. Originally, this included requirements for new oil tankers to be fitted with segregated ballast tanks. The devastating effect of the Exxon Valdez oil spill in Alaska meant that since 1966, new tankers are built with a double hull, creating a buffer around the oil in case of a casualty. Ships also now have tanks to store waste oil and efficient water separators to clean contaminated water from oil before it is discharged into the sea. Annex 2 regulates the control of pollution by noxious liquid substance in bulk. It details how 250 listed chemicals should be kept, stored, and discharged at reception facilities ashore instead of the sea. Annex 3 provides regulation to prevent pollution by harmful substances carried at sea in packaged form. It requires all harmful substances to be clearly labelled and survivability of containers lost overboard of up to 3 months. Annex 4 controls pollution by sewage from ships. It was introduced in September 2003 and deals with the proper treatment and disposal of sewage. Imagine the amount of sewage from a modern cruise ship, which can have as many as 9,000 passengers and crew. That's a lot of toilets. Annex 5 regulates pollution by garbage and details how to safely dispose of all rubbish, except fish waste, as it comes from the sea and can be returned to the sea's environment. As we are beginning to understand, microplastics are a real problem, and it can take up to 450 years for a plastic bottle to decompose. Annex 6 limits the main air pollutants in shipping, especially exhaust gases. All ships should use cleaner fuels, and new ships must be built with more efficient burning engines. Research by CE Delft suggests an inefficient vessel creates pollutants equivalent to 50 million private cars, the same as on German roads today. By 2022, MARPOL had been ratified by 150 countries, representing over 98% of merchant shipping worldwide. This is a great achievement. However, there is a need for constant vigilance. More checks need to be made. The MARPOL Convention should continue to be updated, and new technology should be used to lessen the impact of shipping on the environment and the world's oceans.
Know that Senstrek project started its journey in 2015 with the goal of supporting the safe and environmentally sound ship recycling in Bangladesh, with a particular objective of supporting the government of Bangladesh so that Bangladesh can be in a position to ratify the Hong Kong International Convention.
Part of the maritime business, of course, is to take old ships out of business and to have them recycled in an environmental friendly way. And that's what Senstrek is all about, and that's why it's very important for us.
By cooperating with Bangladesh, which was one of the largest and still is one of the largest ship recycling countries, we thought that would be the highest effect when it comes to our involvement.
I think once the Hong Kong Convention is ratified, there will be 2 years' time for all the yards to be developed as per Hong Kong Convention regulations. We wanted to show that in Bangladesh, sustainable ship recycling was also possible.
Every year, pollution kills millions of people around the world. That's because we breathe in toxic air, we eat fish laden with mercury, and we drink from rivers clogged with plastics. These problems, issues are so common, we've begun to accept them. But did you know that you have a right to a clean environment? Every day, people can use the law and their purchasing power to press governments and businesses to respect Mother Nature. Marine. Billions of people around the world rely on our oceans for food and for their livelihoods. But 8 million tons of plastic and toxic waste enter the sea each year, contaminating fish, clogging shorelines, and hampering shipping. By exercising your fundamental human rights, you can help prevent marine pollution. You can demand that businesses live up to their responsibility to curtail marine pollution. You can boycott companies that waste resources and use too much packaging. You can call on governments to enact policies that reduce the use of plastic. And you can change your own habits as a consumer, using less and recycling more. The protection of our seas and oceans is our human right. Pollution affects almost every aspect of life on Earth. But when people exercise their environmental rights, we have a fighting chance to beat pollution and to ensure the health of our planet. Do your part. Claim your right to a safe and healthy life. It is our human right.
Our ocean defines our planet. It sustains us and is home to more than half of all life on Earth today. The presence of the ocean touches every living thing, no matter where it lives. The air we breathe and the water we consume are ultimately linked to the seas. The ocean drives our weather and stabilizes our climate. Nowhere is more powerful and unforgiving. Yet more beautiful and endlessly fascinating. Yet, for too long, we have taken the ocean for granted. Our actions have pushed species to the brink and had an impact on every ocean habitat, no matter how remote or how deep. We haven't understood what the ocean does for us. The effects of climate change have been softened by the ocean. But now we are facing the consequences. The seas are warming, rising, and becoming more acidic. It's a sobering thought that coral reefs may be lost within the next century. We all need a healthy ocean, so we must change our ways. Together with the right management, we can repopulate the seas. We can reduce marine pollution and minimize the impact of ocean acidification. The ocean's power of regeneration is remarkable if we just offer it the chance. It's not too late. We are in reach of a whole new relationship with the ocean, a wiser, more sustainable relationship. The choice lies with us.
Today, we are also commemorating International Day for Universal Access to Information, which is commemorated on 28th September. Artificial intelligence and e-governance can play an important role to improve access to information in our digital world. They can help bridge the digital divide by giving citizens access to tailor-made and accessible information. This can assure services that are more efficient. Citizens can access public sector information and services nearly instantly, making government services and digital enhances transparency and accessibility. However, these developments also raise questions about the fundamental rights and ethical uses of artificial intelligence and e-governance by public institutions. Since artificial intelligence uses citizens' data and how we protect the privacy of citizens, because artificial intelligence can determine what information we access on which ethical principles it is determined. So the 2023 edition of International Day for Universal Access to the Information, in short known as IDUAI, will be an opportunity to discuss e-governance and artificial intelligence with a view to assuring right to access information The theme will also enable about both the benefits and risks of e-governance and artificial intelligence. Practical tools and best practices will be discussed, especially in the view of the presentation of the policy guidelines for the public sector and the information on the declaration that will affirm the right to information against the backdrop of good governance. Access to information is very much important, as informed citizens can make informed decisions. For instance, when going to the polls, only when citizens know how are the government governed can they hold their governments accountable for their decisions and actions. Information is power. Therefore, universal access to information is a cornerstone of healthy and inclusive knowledge societies. Universal access to the information means that everyone has the right to seek, receive, and impart information. This right is an integral part of the right to freedom of expression. The media plays a crucial role in informing the public about issues of the interest, but it relies on the ability to seek and receive information too. Hence, the right to universal access to information is also bound up with the right to freedom of the press. On 17th November 2015, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, declared 28th September as International Day for Universal Access to Information. Considering the civil society, organizations and governments, bodies in the world have adopted and currently celebrate this observance, the UN General Assembly also adopted 28 September 2019 as the International Day for Universal Access to UNESCO and its intergovernmental programs. The International Program for the Development of Communication and the Information for All programs provide a platform and frame for all the stakeholders to participate in the international discussions on policy and guidelines in the area of access to projects aimed to strengthen open science, multilingualism, ICTs for disabled and marginalized, and media and information literacy. The UNESCO's International Program for the Development of Communication, IPDC, provides support for the media projects and seeks an accord to secure a healthy environment for the growth of free and pluralist media in developing countries. The IPDC strives to realize more effective media projects that empower people to gain equitable access to knowledge and express themselves through free and pluralistic media. Inclusive knowledge societies are the way to forward as they build on the sum of the human ingenuity, technical innovation, and the power of information and knowledge. They have the potential to take us all forward to a new era of peace and sustainable development. UNESCO's work contributes to SDGs 16 by promoting peaceful and inclusive societies, ensuring public access to the information and protecting fundamental freedoms.
anniversary, UNESCO calls on all of its partners, all of you, to keep up your commitment to the IPDC. Thank you very much.
The International Programme for the Development of Communication is the only intergovernmental initiative of the UN that allocates funds and sets standards to strengthen independent journalism and build up media organizations in developing countries. The IPDC is how UNESCO has boosted the development of media over the years. Over the past 40 years, following the decisions and guidelines of the Intergovernmental Council and its Bureau, the IPDCs focused on projects that target the most urgent issues facing communication development around the world. So ultimately, it helps keep journalists safe. It supports developing media in countries where this is most needed, and it protects and promotes freedom of speech and the public's access to information. How has it played out over the past 40 years? What's been the contribution of the IPDC and its council of 39 states that govern the relevant programs? Let's have a look.
The IPDC was created because one of the pillars of UNESCO is precisely communication. Article number 1 of the UNESCO's constitution. UNESCO will guarantee the free dissemination of ideas by word and image.
As the world changes, so does the IPDC. The UN's Sustainable Development Goals have helped the IPDC promote the importance of media development as being key for progress in the bigger picture of health, climate issues, justice, jobs, and more. The IPDC has mobilized about $120 million for about 2,000 initiatives across 140 developing countries and countries in transition. Every year, it supports about 70 projects. The IPDC's rapid response mechanism allows it to move quickly in tackling urgent media development needs, as seen with the Ebola epidemic in West Africa and today with COVID-19. Throughout the coronavirus pandemic, UNESCO's IPDC has supported media in developing countries by setting up information hubs to make sure that accurate information about COVID-19 is spread. The coronavirus crisis can aggravate already challenging media landscapes, particularly for local media, which can lack capacity and resources, but which serve the most vulnerable communities. Projects backed by the IPDC are responding to current pressures by getting media organizations to support each other and ramp up the use of digital resources and services.
Access to information is fundamental for democratic societies and to ensure that many different voices are heard in the media. This is especially important if we want to change the fact that women are severely underrepresented in media, both in terms of decision-making and content. In today's digitalized world, we need to ensure that the online environment is rights-based approach, open, accessible, and multi-stakeholder driven.
As the events of recent months have shown, journalists and information professionals deserve our thanks. They are on the front line when it comes to covering the pandemic. They play an essential role in distinguishing between rumors and reliable information. In the next few years, the program will continue to play its role in defending freedom of expression and ensuring access to information so we can rise to the challenges of the future. This is why, to celebrate the program's anniversary, UNESCO calls on all of its partners, all of you, to keep up your commitment to the IPDC. Thank you very much.
UNESCO and the IPDC have a truly global outlook. 39 member states are elected to the Intergovernmental Council. Morocco has been elected several times. The IPDC's input has had a big impact in the country.
Dans le cadre du PIDC, le Programme international de développement de la communication a bénéficié de l'informatisation de sa section de presse écrite. C'est un programme performant qui a permis aux étudiants journalistes ici à l'ISIC, mais aussi aux journalistes professionnels dans le cadre de la formation continue, d'introduire l'outil informatique dans la rédaction, mais aussi dans la mise en page. Et depuis, le travail journalistique a été pour une grande part un travail informatisé.
The IPDC's support has also helped address gender imbalances in the media.
The global media landscape has evolved dramatically in the more than 20 years period since Beijing, when media were recognized as critical for the advancement of women and the achievement of equality between women and men. Section J of the Beijing Platform for Action underlined several issues, among them gender bias in media organizations, degrading and pornographic images of women, and the unexploited potential of information technology for women's progress. In recent years, digital media and communications have transformed society. Developments in artificial intelligence and the challenges of big data, along with the threats posed by misinformation and fake news, have enormous implications for women's rights, safety of women journalists, cyber violence, and freedom of expression.
The IPDC's work has also supported the training of judges across Latin America.
En los aspectos de libertad de expresión, acceso a la información pública y protección de los y las periodistas. Ha desarrollado una intensa tarea en la región latinoamericana, ha formado a diferentes formadores, tanto en actividades presenciales como a distancia. Y mediante la cooperación con la Red Iberoamericana de Escuelas Judiciales, que represento, lo cual ha permitido llegar prácticamente a todos los países, capacitando a miles de jueces. Indudablemente el impacto es amplio y progresivo, y tiende a consolidar la vigencia, respeto y garantía de los principios fundamentales.
Press freedom is a priority for the program. Ever since the UNESCO-backed Windhoek Declaration in 1991, the IPDC has been particularly focused on supporting free, pluralistic, and independent media in Africa.
The IPDC's contribution has been twofold. It has, through diverse training programs, skilled journalists to provide much needed information to the audiences they serve. It has also worked to garner commitments from governments to support media and media development. And importantly, to provide the conducive environment for the media broadly and journalists specifically to operate and do their work safely.
So, after 40 years of having a global impact, the IPDC is proud of its achievements and still committed to pushing forward.
We must, all the human beings, know that we must participate in a multilateral system in order that through participation we can create a system that is based on democracy. And democracy means this, means that all the citizens are listened, that we know what happens, because this is also very important. As a scientist, I know very well that we must know the reality. Therefore, I think that this is now extremely relevant to commemorate the creation of this international program.
The IPDC faces a new challenge, tackling the economic effects of coronavirus. The pandemic not only cost lives, but it cost jobs. It's created a revenue crisis for media organizations all around the world, and many have not survived. The program is tackling this by ramping up its support of business operations, innovation, and the funding of media outlets. Its specialist guidance has had a big impact on governments, donors, and media. From its proud beginnings to its contemporary undertakings, the IPDC's mission is as relevant today as when it began.
Today, disinformation is one of the biggest dangers facing society. It hurts our health. It harms our ability to stop climate change. It injures our democracy. In the face of disinformation, a free, pluralistic, independent media is part of the remedy. That's why, after 40 years, history is calling on IPDC and on all of us to help secure a free, independent, and professional media for the future, for our future.
Join this program and do something for press freedom and media independence.
Today, we are also commemorating World Rabies Day 2023 on September 28th, and it is the 17th World Rabies Day. This year's World Rabies Day theme is All for One, One Health for All. 28th September this year will mark the 17th World Rabies Day. This year's theme, All for One, One Health for All, highlights that one health is not for a selected few, but for everyone. Rabies control programs offer a great example to operationalize One Health building. The structures and trust are crucial to establish systems for other zoonotic diseases, including those that are pandemic-prone. Ensuring equitable access to health services and rabies post-exposure prophylaxis for undeserved communities not only saves lives, but also strengthens national health systems. With the 0 by 30 Global Strategic Plan for the elimination of dog-mediated human rabies deaths by 2030, we have shared a global goal. The world has the vaccines, medicines, tools, and technologies to break the cycle of one of the oldest diseases together in unity. We can eliminate rabies, leaving no one behind. The theme further emphasizes the importance of equality and strengthening overall health systems by ensuring that one health is not for a selected few, but rather something that should be available for everyone. By collaborating and joining forces across sectors and engaging communities and committing to sustain dog vaccination together as one, we can work towards one goal to eliminate one disease, to make one health available to all, using rabies as example. Zero by 30, the global strategic plan to end human deaths from dog-mediated rabies. An estimated of 59,000 people die from rabies each year. That's one person every 9 minutes of every day, 40% of whom are children living in Asia and Africa. As dog bites cause almost all human cases, we can prevent rabies deaths by increasing awareness, vaccinating dogs to prevent the disease as its source, and administering life-saving treatment. after people have been bitten. We have vaccines, medicines, tools, and technologies to prevent people from dying from dog-mediated rabies. For a relatively low cost, it is possible to break the disease cycle and save lives. A country's health system benefits from the capacity building required for rabies surveillance. The core activity strengthens the health system by improving the mechanisms for surveillance of other diseases and expanding access to the healthcare, minimizing duplication and improving efficiency by pooling resources and developing strong health service networks saves money and makes the most of the resources. Countries can maximize the impact of each dollar invested. Investing in rabies elimination saves lives and strengthens both human and veterinary health systems. The collaborative response through rabies programs, contribution to disease prevention and preparedness. This means integrated rabies elimination is a model for One Health collaboration. In the past, the global response has been fragmented and uncoordinated. We need to break the status quo and come together with a combined will and an achievable goal. A common plan that is combined will was evident in 2015, and the resulting global call to action made it clear that now it is the time to act. In 2015, the world called for action by setting a goal of zero human dog-mediated rabies deaths by 2030 worldwide. Now, for the first time, 4 organizations, the World Health Organization, the World Organization for Animal Health, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, and the Global Alliance for Rabies Control have joined forces as the United Against Rabies Collaboration and are determined to reach this goal. The United Against Rabies Collaboration leverages existing tools and expertise in a coordinated way to empower, engage, and enable countries to save human lives from this preventable disease. The Global Strategic Plan puts countries at the center with renewed international support to act. This country-centric engagement will be flexible and consider different contexts and capacities. Country will lead efforts driving the changes needed to reach zero by 30. Empowered by the United Against Rabies Collaboration as they build sustainable institutional capacity and end human deaths from dog-mediated rabies. Rabies is a vaccine-preventable viral disease which occurs in more than 150 countries and territories. It causes tens of thousands of deaths every year, mainly in Asia and Africa, 40% of whom are children under 15 years of age. Dogs are the main source of human rabies deaths, contributing up to 99% of all rabies transmission to humans. Rabies can be prevented through vaccination of dogs and prevention of dog bites. After a potential exposure of people to a rabid animal, they can seek post-exposure prophylaxis, which consists of immediate thorough wound washing with soap and water for 15 minutes, a series of rabies vaccination, and if indicated, administration of rabies immunoglobulin or monoclonal antibodies, which can be life-saving. Globally, rabies causes an estimated cost of US $8.6 billion per year. A One Health approach assures that the engagement of multiple sectors and local communities to build awareness and conduct mass dog vaccination campaigns. Rabies is a vaccine-preventable zoonotic viral disease affecting the central nervous system. Once clinical symptoms appear, rabies is virtually 100% fatal. In up to 99% of the cases, domestic dogs are responsible for the rabies virus transmission to the humans. Yet, rabies can affect both domestic and wild animals. It spreads to the people and animals via saliva, usually through bites, scratches, or direct contact with mucosa, like eyes, mouth, or open wounds. Children between age of 5 and 14 are frequent victims. Rabies is present on all continents except Antarctica, with over 95% human deaths occurring in Asia and Africa. However, rabies cases are rarely reported and registered. Numbers differ greatly from the estimated burden. Rabies is one of the neglected tropical diseases that predominantly affects already marginalized, poor, and vulnerable populations. Although effective human vaccines and immunoglobulins exist for the rabies, they are often not readily available or accessible to those in need. Managing rabies exposure, where the average cost of the rabies post-exposure prophylaxis is currently estimated at an average of US $108, along with the travel costs and loss of income, can be catastrophic financial burden on affected families whose average daily income may be as low as US $1 or $2 per person. So every year, more than 29 million people worldwide receives PEP, that is post-exposure prophylaxis. This is estimated to prevent hundreds of thousands of rabies deaths annually. Globally, the economic burden of the dog-mediated rabies is estimated at US $8.6 billion per year, in addition to uncalculated psychological trauma for individuals, families, and communities. So to prevent rabies, eliminating rabies in dogs, rabies is a vaccine-preventable disease. So vaccinating dogs, including puppies, is the most cost-effective strategy for preventing rabies in people because it stops the transmission at its source. Moreover, dog vaccination reduces the need for PEP. Education on dog behavior and bite prevention for both children and adults is an essential extension of rabies vaccine programs and can decrease both the incidence of human rabies and the financial burden of treating dog bites. Immunization of people. Very effective vaccines are also available to immunize people after exposure as PEP or before an exposure to rabies. Pre-exposure prophylaxis, PrEP, is recommended for people in certain high-risk occupations, such as laboratory workers handling live rabies and rabies-related virus, and people whose professional or personal activities might lead to direct contact with bats, dogs, or other mammals that might be infected with rabies, such as animal disease control staff and wildlife rangers. PrEP might be indicated also for outdoor travelers and people living in remote, highly rabies endemic areas with limited local access to rabies biologics. The symptoms of rabies. The incubation period for rabies is typically 2 to 3 months, but may vary from 1 week to 1 year, depending on the factors such as the location of the virus entry and the viral load. Initially, symptoms of the rabies include generic signs like fever, pain, and unusual or unexplained tingling, pricking, or burning sensation at the wound site. As the virus moves to central nervous system, Progressive and fatal inflammation of the brain and spinal cord develops. Clinical rabies in people can be managed, but very rarely cured and not without severe neurological deficits. There are two forms of rabies. Furless rabies results in hyperactivity, excitable behavior, hallucinations, lack of coordination, hydrophobia, fear of water, and aerophobia, fear of drafts or fresh air. Death occurs after a few days due to cardiorespiratory arrest. Paralytic rabies accounts for about 20% of a total number of human cases. This form of rabies runs a less dramatic and usually longer course than the furious form. Muscles gradually became paralyzed starting from wound site. A coma slowly develops and eventually death occurs. The paralytic form of rabies is often misdiagnosed, contributing to the underreporting of the disease. Current diagnosis tools are not suitable for detecting rabies infection before the onset of clinical disease, unless the rabies-specific signs of hydrophobia or aerophobia are present or a reliable history of contact with suspected or confirmed rabid animal is available. Clinical diagnosis is difficult. Human rabies can be confirmed intra-vitam and post-mortem by various diagnostic techniques that detect whole virus, viral antigens, or nucleic acids in infected tissues, brain, skin, or saliva. People are usually infected following a deep bite or scratch from an animal with rabies, which is in 99% of the cases a dog. Transmission can occur if saliva of infected animals comes in direct contact with the mucosa, that is eyes or mouth, or fresh skin wounds. In the America, hematophagous bats are now the major sources of human rabies deaths, as the dog-mediated transmission has been largely interrupted in this region. Bat-mediated rabies is also emerging public health threat in Australia and Western Europe. Human deaths following exposure to foxes, raccoons, skunks, jackals, mongooses, and other wild carnivore horse species are very rare, and bites from rodents are not known to transmit rabies. Contraction of rabies through inhalation of virus-containing aerosols or through transplantation of infected organs have been described, but it is extremely rare. Human-to-human transmission through bites or saliva is theoretically possible, but never has been confirmed. The same applies to the transmission to humans via consumption of raw meat or milk of infected animals. Post-exposure prophylaxis is an emergency response to a rabies exposure. This prevents the virus from entering the central nervous system, which would invariably result in death. PEP consists of extensive washing with water and soap for at least 15 minutes and the local treatment of the wound as soon as possible after the suspected exposure. A course of potent and effective rabies vaccine that meets World Health Organization standards and the administration of rabies immunoglobulin or monoclonal antibodies into the wound if indicated. Depending on the severity of the contact with suspected rabid animal, administration of a full PEP course is recommended. Based on the categories of contact and recommended post-exposure prophylaxis, categories of contact with suspected rabid animal and relevant post-exposure prophylaxis measures. Category 1, touching or feeding animals, animal licks on intact skin, no exposure. Washing of exposed skin surfaces, no PEP. Category 2, nibbling of uncovered skin, minor scratches or abrasions without bleeding, exposure. Wound washing and immediate vaccination. Category 3, single or multiple transdermal bites or scratches, contamination of mucous membrane or broken skin with saliva from animal licks, exposures due to direct and contact with the bars and so category 3, single or multiple transdermal bites or scratches, contamination of mucous membrane or broken skin with saliva from animal licks, exposure due to direct contact with bats, which amounts to severe exposure, wound washing, immediate vaccination and administration of rabies immunoglobulin, monoclonal antibodies. Category 2 and 3 exposures require PEP. World Health Organization recommends administering rabies vaccination intradermally, as this reduces amount of necessary vaccine and therefore the cost by 60 to 80% without compromising any safety or efficacy. Rabies is included in World Health Organization's 2021 to 2030 roadmap for the global control of neglected tropical diseases, which sets regional progressive targets for the elimination of targeted diseases. Rabies is one of those. As a zoonotic disease, it requires close annual As a zoonotic disease, it requires close cross-sectional coordination at the national, regional, and global levels. World Health Organization, Food and Agriculture Organization, and the World Organization for Animal Health, WAOH, founded as OIE, have launched United Against Rabies Forum, which is a multi-stakeholder platform to advocate for action and investment in rabies control. Rabies can significantly contribute to building of the capacity of One Health workforce. World Health Organization works with partners to guide and support countries as they develop and implement their national rabies elimination plans. But the date in 2019, Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, included human rabies vaccines in its vaccine investment strategy 2021 to 2025, which would support scaling up rabies in PEP in Gavi. Eligible countries the key towards implementing effective rabies elimination programs is to engage with local communities. Start small, catalyze long-term investment through stimulus packages, ensure the ownership of the governments rabies elimination is feasible and achievable if the goal is prioritized and adequately supported financially and politically. Rabies is a virus zoonotic disease already discussed that causes progressive and fatal inflammation of the brain and spinal cord. Clinically has its two forms. Furious rabies characterized by hyperactivity and hallucinations, and paralytic rabies characterized by paralysis and coma. Although fatal once clinical signs appear, rabies is entirely avoidable. Vaccine, medicines, and technologies have long been available to prevent death from rabies. Nevertheless, rabies still kills tens of thousands of people each year. Of these cases, approximately 99% are acquired from the bite of an infected dog. Dog-mediated human rabies can be eliminated by tackling the disease at its source, infected dogs, making people aware of how to avoid the bites of rabid dogs, to seek treatment when they are bitten, and to vaccinate animals can successfully disrupt the rabies transmission cycle. So rabies is estimated to cause 59,000 human deaths annually in over 150 countries, with 95% cases occurring in Africa and Asia. The chosen date, September 28, pays homage to the French scientist Louis Pasteur, who died on September 28, 1895. Pasteur was the creator of the rabies vaccine. His discoveries in various fields of natural sciences and his contributions to the public health allowed and still allowed today to save communities' lives. The DMR is an opportunity to promote the fight against this disease, raise awareness about its prevention, and commemorate achievements. Ensuring equitable access to health services and rabies post-exposure prophylaxis for undeserved communities not only saves lives, but also strengthens national health systems. So with this, we shall end today's commemorations. Thank you everyone for joining us. And we request everyone to fill the feedback form, which has been raised in the form of polls within Zoom platform. To see you all tomorrow at the same time, 6 o'clock. Tomorrow also we have another international conference. We request everyone to quickly fill up the feedback form before you leave the platform.